Hey guys, welcome to another Daily Devo. Let's start off with a question. What do I do when the Bible has no clear answer? Clear answer on questions like, how much time can I spend on social media? Or questions like, when is it okay to start dating? Or what type of food is sinful to eat too much of, right? Today is all about these types of questions. Now, these types of questions are ones I've gotten a lot as teaching Bible in middle school. And to be honest, questions that I have from time to time as well. What do I do when the Bible does not give me a clear answer? Now let's go to 1 Corinthians. I picture this letter being read in public by an elder of the 1 Corinthian church. The reader had perhaps started off by sharing something about the Apostle Paul, but then again, most people would have definitely known who he was. As the letter was rolled open, I'm sure that everyone would have quieted down, wanting to hear what the beloved Apostle Paul was going to say. We had talked earlier that the first part of the letter was about doctrinal issues. And next, Paul is going to continue by addressing some specific issues. And today we've come to chapter 8. And Paul is going to address another specific issue that was going on in the church. The language that he uses in this passage makes most commentators think that this was a particularly sticky issue. Again, going back to the room where this was first read, I imagine that some families shuffled around awkwardly as their lifestyle of living in community was challenged. Now, as we start off, we see that Paul does not beat around the bush, but then again, Paul rarely does, right? In fact, he hits the nail right on the head in chapter 8, verse 1. He says, concerning the food offered to idols, the problem at hand is revealed. It's the issue of offering food to idols, but that's not where the problem lives. The problem lives in people's hearts. Now, I hope you've read 1 Corinthians 8. If not, pause the video. Be sure to do that. But it's okay to find that passage a little strange. We don't have the issue of offering food to idols. We generally don't walk into a grocery store and purchase food that was offered to a specific idol, and we're not dependent on food handouts that were given in the name of another idol. But this was the reality for the Corinthian church. Now, it seems to be that in the Corinthian church, there was a group of people that had accepted Jesus. They were so excited that their hearts were just filled with this newfound freedom. They did not have to worry about eating food from the wrong idol. In fact, they actually didn't have to worry about idols at all. God was the one true God, and no one else existed besides him. So they said, let's eat away. Who cares if the meat is worshipped to another god? Paul affirms this belief in chapter 8, verse 4. There he says that we know that an idol has no real existence and that there is no God but one. They were, as far as meat is concerned, as free as a bird. But there's another group as well, represented in the 1 Corinthian church. These people were also listening to the letter from Paul being read for the first time. And it seems to be that when these Corinthians came to know Jesus, they were so in love with the gospel that they wanted to radically break with anything that connected to their former idol-worshiping life. Now that meant that they would break away from some friends, maybe even a job, maybe even family. And it seems that these people also felt convicted to break with anything that was related to their former idol worship. Now that was not necessarily a bad thing. They loved Jesus so much that they were willing to go without a stake. And so they decidedly said, I'm not going to touch the meat, worship the idols, because I love Jesus more. And so now, in chapter 8, we see that the church is in a tough spot. People are really passionate about both sides. One said, I'm free so I can eat meat because the gods aren't real. Another side says, Jesus rescued us away from these gods, so I don't want to eat their meat. Do we see the problem? We often call this issue a gray spot. Some things that Christians feel differently about, and at the same time something that God's Word doesn't give us a lot of information on. But Paul has a solution for this gridlock. He says, technically, party one is right. Gods aren't real, so food offered to idols is okay. But here's the catch. Even more important than your pork chops is loving others. In fact, if you hurt your fellow church member by doing what they see as sinful and rubbing it in their face, then you're actually sinning. Now, we can all agree that loving versus not loving is a black and white issue. Jesus' life is filled with practical commands to love your neighbor. If you don't love them in this situation, Paul said, then you just catapulted yourself from a great topic to the dark side of a black and white topic. If option A and B are okay in God's eyes, be sure to choose love. Paul puts it this way in chapter 8, verse 13. He says, "Therefore, if food makes my brother stumble, I will never eat meat, lest I make my brother stumble." Now, the direction of our application is the same for all of us, although I'm convinced that the specific might look different as we unpack this truth in our own context. But first, this guideline only goes for great topics, challenges that the Bible does not have a clear answer on. When we hit those crossroads, we can know that God has given us freedom. He does not micromanage our every turn on the journey of life, but He does ask that we always choose the path of love. We're called to overvalue love and undervalue our personal opinion on these great topics. I'm going to be real honest with you, this is not always easy, especially when I have the freedom to choose. I like doing things my way. But today, as we interact with people that are somewhere between a little different to very different from us, let's be sure to follow the command of Paul. If option A and option B are okay in God's eyes, let's be sure to choose love.